LinkedIn itself. Let me share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. 1 second. Okay, so obviously your profiles will look different. Let me open up my profile. So I have a paid profile, so you don't need to worry about that. But the idea is that your profile should be, you know, sort of a window into who you are. Okay, and this is the place where you'll put all your information, right? Be it small, big, anything that you've done, maybe freelance, maybe part time, maybe for free, non-profit, whatever, right? Everything should be here no matter what. Okay, and essentially this is like uh, think of it as like your LinkedIn profile is essentially job applications coming to you versus you having to go into job applications, right? Because of your LinkedIn profile, if you hit certain search terms, etc., people will reach out to you, right? And the more you post, the more people will know about you, etc., right? So make sure your name is spelled correctly, and also the capitalization is correct. You'll see people using all caps, absolutely horrible. Never use all caps. Always use the regular way of writing names with the first letter cap in if you have multiple pieces, middle name, first name, abbreviations, use appropriate language, but never all caps. Okay, never all caps, never all smalls, those kind of things, right? You'll be surprised how many people fuck this up and get it absolutely wrong. So those are kind of the things that you should worry about. Here you can see this one, right? All small, right? It shouldn't be the case. Then use these first few lines to highlight what you want to highlight, right? Here I can see Ashish, he sits right across me in the office. He's the co-founder of this company called Craftland that sits next to me. He's an ex-CTO of blah blah blah. So this is what he wants other people to know before they even click on his profile, right? So think of yourself appearing here, and what do you want other people to know, right? Do you want them to know that you are a game developer, or do you want them to specifically know about something brag worthy that you did, right? Whatever is the highest profile thing that will attract people to your profile, that's the thing you want to put up here, right? For me, two colleges and universities that I attended is definitely brag worthy, very famous names in the industry, etc. So I want to put them up. I want to put them, all the previous companies that I've worked with, etc. All of them. Again, this is not the entire list, right? Even EA didn't make this cut here, right? But I can scroll down and you can see a lot more companies listed here, right? Like Part-Time Lever is there. I worked briefly there. Gray Sauce is there. So it's not that, hey, let's just put every fucking thing at the top, but pick the things that add value. And then the first thing you want to have is the thing that you're doing right now. Okay, never sort of do the looking for new opportunities in this particular thing itself. Okay, you can go into your settings and you can enable that. So not this, but inside your profile settings or LinkedIn settings, there is an option which says, are you open to new job opportunities? And that's where any recruiter who might be looking and using their recruiter based tools on LinkedIn to search for game developers, for Unity developers and things like that, right? They'll be able to you'll show up in their searches, etc. Okay, so do generally just go to those settings and fix those settings so that you show up for the relevant things, and you can highlight what all things you're interested in and what all things you'll like recruiters to reach out to you for. Okay, so those kind of things you should be looking at. Now your about section is like a summary of yourself, right? Like if you have to summarize yourself, if I met you today, right? And I asked you, hey, so, Rishabh, tell me in 30 seconds about yourself. Like, so you should have your about section. I'm doing this. Like, you don't need to say, hey, my favorite movie is DDLJ. That's not what LinkedIn is for, right? You should have appropriate information that, hey, I am a passionate game developer. I've spent blah 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 doing this, and have an appropriate, meaningful information where anybody within 20 to 30 seconds should be able to make sense of who you are. Of course, you shouldn't have any kind of links as such because these are not really clickable. When somebody views your profile, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to click these links. So only have very important things, right? Like if you have, say, a personal website which you're maintaining as your online portfolio, right? Those are the only things you should have up here, not your, Instagram profile link and things like that, right? You should have links to any of that stuff, right? I'm building a company, so obviously my company website's here. But for you guys, your focus should be that if you have a website, that should be here. If you have a GitHub that you want to highlight, that should be here, right? Most 99% for you guys, it will be the GitHub, right? That's the only link you want to check out. So the last line here as a separate line would be like, for projects that I've worked on, checked out on GitHub, right? So that's it, and then the GitHub link. So that way you're presenting very concise information, and making it easy for people to figure out whether you are the right person that they're looking for or not. Okay. So instead of you going to a job portal or searching through job posts, 500 of job posts to figure out whether which company is good for you, invest this one time effort on setting up the right profile, and then companies will naturally come to you, recruiters will come to you and find you. So have the right keywords that I've worked on. You can list down the core level of high level technologies that we have worked with, etc. as well, right? So you can list them down. So when somebody is searching for, say, C sharp developer.net, right, your shows up because it's inside your, C sharp and .net are listed inside your about section as well. Okay. So this summary is much important. And then, you can go into as many details as possible in your individual entries. Okay. So Rishabh, you're working somewhere as a Unity developer intern or whatever the title is, have that title, have the company's logo or the correct name. So the logo also shows up correctly, right? So have that information listed correctly. And not just that, do not include what the company does, right? When put yourself in the shoes of the other person who's going to be reading it, right? Don't try to say, oh, I want to tell you this. First understand what the other person is interested in knowing, right? They're looking at your profile, right? If somebody is looking at my profile, they don't give a fuck what Jungle Games does, what Unforgiving Games does, what Carnivore does, what DNA West does. They don't care. They want to know what I was doing there, right? So here it says publish this game, right? And then I was like working on this, but primary focus was developing UI systems, blah, 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 player inventory, whatever it is, right? It has a full detail of what I was doing there because you're looking at my profile. You're not looking at the bloody company's profile, right? So, and that's the same thing that you should be focused on in the interviews as well. When somebody asks that, hey, what was this company about? And, naturally they're asking you about more details about what your role within that company slash team was. So focus more on that, right? Like this is not a good example, right? I just have this here, but I have no information as to what. So even I should go and update this. Just yeah, I don't care at this stage because I'm not really looking for people to reach out to me regarding something relevant to this. So for me, it's fine. But here, if you look, I have exactly listed all the details, what I was doing, what I was handling, what exactly projects I was working on, and then there are these other projects as well that I picked up, right? So naturally, if somebody is searching for, something Rumby related, my profile might show up, right? Team Patti related, my profile would show up. So those kind of things you want to highlight and emphasize. Okay, this one is actually a good one where I actually had listed down in like a bullet point manner all the key things that I wanted to highlight. So if you have those details and you can be as granular as possible, sure, go ahead. but at least have a high level summary of what you were doing, which projects did you publish, whether it was a team project or a solo project, what was your core responsibilities and things like that, right? So this is another one. This is one of the early ones. So it's slightly lengthy and paragraphish oriented. So don't try and do that. Try to do this sort of the bullet point approach, numbering approach. Either is work fine because this is much more concise to read, right? If I'm looking at somebody's profile, I would definitely not read this, right? But the same information is probably in these 3 lines as well, just that it's organized inside bullet points. I'd probably read this because I know it will take me less than 10 seconds to read this. But it might take me 2 minutes to read whole of this, right? So I won't read it. So you want the other person to know more about you, and you want them to understand who you are as a person before they spend any time on you. So you want to be as precise as possible, but also include every information. So it's a fine balance. Okay. And then you can put in relevant links as well, right? So if you highlight a project, so there's a specific section for projects as well. Let me see. Yeah, so you can actually highlight certain projects as well and give details, right? And point them to the right links, add team members and whatnot as well. So you can be as descriptive and as detailed as possible. Um, and just have all these sort of accomplishments kind of, if you have done some international tests or anything like that, languages that I don't think you guys might have any publications or patents as such, but if you've done any kind of different courses, etc., those kind of things you can highlight here, right? But especially for like things like courses, don't just put everything in your entire BTech, right? That's also not very useful. You'll just be wasting your time as such. So have information that's relevant to what you're doing, right? Your course might include, say, production, industrial design, because yay for Indian BTech system, you might be studying some random bullshit, but it's no longer relevant to where your career is heading and what you want to do. Don't put that information. It's not going to add any value to anybody. It's just noise, right? You need to filter through those noise. And then, generally you can follow the company. This is just for you. So nobody else cares about it. You get to know about what these companies are up to, etc. Cool. Any questions on how your profile should look, etc.? Nope. All right. All right, Rishabh, you've already graduated, so this shouldn't say student. You're not a student anymore, right?
Okay, sir.
So keep these kind of things updated as much as possible. I'm guessing this is the current one, right? Like these experts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so have more information, what kind of projects you're working on. So expand this out, do the same thing here. This clearly gives me a mixed signal because I look at, hey, okay, this person has already graduated. I'm looking to hire a Unity developer. But, when I was looking at the entire search results, oh, you're still a student. I need somebody full time. Ignore, right? You're not in Dehradun anymore, right? So update that information as well.
Okay, sir.
So keep information as relevant and as updated as possible. You haven't updated that, hey, you are a full stack game developer at Outscale. Now, because we are in the industry, we are making a lot of noise about ourselves. People go and check out who these students are who are working with us, who are about to graduate. And when they search for Outscale, your name would show up, right? When somebody's searching for Outscale Unity developers, right, your name should show up, but it won't because you haven't listed that on your resume or on your LinkedIn, right? So that's where having relevant information also helps, right? Like about section, all right. Right, I guess Rishabh is a dot. Right? So it's not helpful for anybody to know that you are a dot. Okay, so highlight the things, also fix this section so that if you, whichever is the latest one that you want to highlight, you can pick and choose here.
Okay,
So
sir.
pick the high priority ones, etc., and those that way. um, yeah, so you can see, of course, my profile is much more long and elaborate, but the idea is that you should be looking to get into that uh, direction as such. Then, oh, one thing I forgot to mention. So there is something called as assessments. LinkedIn has their own sort of internal assessments, right? This one, skills and endorsements. So you can add all the skills that you have worked on, right? So, if you've done something in computer vision, let's say, right, or testing automation, right, you add them to your profile, and naturally, LinkedIn over time will ask that, hey, this person says that they've done this. You've been closely working with them. Do you want to endorse them for this particular thing? And naturally, you can see that there are people who have endorsed me for different types of skills, right? So, say 31 people have endorsed me for game development, right? 22 people have endorsed me for Unix, 26 for Python, right? Even though I have not touched Python in the last 8 years. I don't know why. But the point is that, you can over time build up your endorsement list, and this is a social proof, right? When somebody looks at this, they know that, a lot of people in the industry know me for my game development work, right? Versus, data analysis, right? Because this might be a recent thing or whatever, versus nobody says that I've done anything in artificial intelligence, right? Which is true. So those things are important. And till the time you add the right skills, LinkedIn is not going to know that, hey, you've done work in C sharp, and it should ask your network connections that, hey, do you want to endorse Rishabh in, C sharp or not? Okay. And the other thing that I was telling you about is that you can have these tools and technology section where you can take up small MCQ based tests, which will take you hardly 15 minutes to finish. But here LinkedIn will show you that whether you have passed this or not. Okay, so if I'm saying I'm good in C sharp, this is my strong suit. This is a LinkedIn's way of saying that, okay, yes, this person has taken our online test, which is literally 10 minutes of work, and has cleared it. Okay, so when somebody is looking for a person, when a hiring manager is selecting the search criteria, they can say that, I want people who have passed the Unity assessment or the C sharp assessment or a .NET assessment or GitHub assessment, things things like that, right? So I've passed the GitHub assessment, I've passed the C sharp assessment, right? I've not taken any other assessments, but this is like a proof that LinkedIn is telling to the recruiters that, okay, we are very confident that this person knows C sharp, and that's where it will start ranking you higher. Okay, so take these basic assessments as well. uh, it's not something that shit takes time, but it's something that over time compounds, and kind of like compound interest. um, you guys are just entering into the industry, so you probably won't have enough people around to give you recommendations. But actually, for all three of you, you've done some work in the industry already. Ask people for recommendations, for especially people who might have been your mentor or manager within the company itself, because here they'll say that, here you can see, except for Anubhav, everybody was at some point or the other my manager, right? So he was my skip level manager, he was my immediate manager, and you can see here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So you can see here that Nick Bowen managed me directly back in August of 2013. Okay, so he was my manager, and Ken was his manager at the same company. Okay, so I got my recommendations from not just one person but two-person within the same team, right? And all those recommendations are absolutely stellar. So this is another layer of social proof. Like Anthony was my manager at DNA, right? Prince was my manager at D Shaw. Joseph was my manager at Jungly Games, right? So get people to write honest, recommendations about you, and make sure they're meaningful. I can show you random people's profile where they go in and say, hey, we have been students, we both worked on similar projects, blah blah blah, let's just give each other recommendations. Don't do that. That's just makes it look like you're trying to game the system, but it's very obvious that you both are at the same level and are trying to ask each other of recommendations. That just doesn't work. That recommendations are usually meaningless, and you're just wasting your time. And samne wale ko will be always be like, the person reviewing it would always be like, that this person does not have any authentic recommendations. So don't do that. Later down the road, when you are in that capacity that you are working with others and mentoring others or closely working with others, right? So you can give them recommendations as well. So you can see I've given Joseph recommendation as well, because we used to work almost at the same level. Okay, even though hierarchically he was managing me, but I was directly reporting to the CEO, and he was more of a mentor slash co-worker rather than a manager as such. So you'll get a chance to give your recommendation, but make sure the recommendations are meaningful and have depth to it. It's like, oh, Rishabh is a great employee. He worked really well, hardworking and passionate. End of story, right? That is literally true with anything you might have done, right? But it needs to be more meaningful. So here, if you look at Joseph, I used to talk about KISS a lot. Keep it simple, stupid, right? And I do that here as well with the guys in my team now. So he mentioned this on there. Now this is a very good example that whatever real relationships that you build at workplaces, right? People know you for more than just a developer. They know you from who you are as a person. So that kind of needs to show in the recommendation itself, right? So Prince was like thrive in complexity, great team player, understanding requirements for activity. So technical debt is one thing that I was heavily invested into. I took over 6 months project to reduce the technical debt, and he mentioned this here. So re-architecting the entire thing, so make it so that you're asking for recommendation. When somebody gives you a recommendation, you have a choice whether you want it to be shown on your profile or not. So it's not that you ask XYZ senior of yours to give you a recommendation and they gave you a very average one. It's better to not show an average recommendation than to show five very average recommendations, because that just makes you stand out like an average person. So instead you should focus on getting people who really appreciate what you do, really enjoy working with you, and are good genuine people themselves, and ask them to give you recommendations. Okay, cool. So try to literally go in and set up everything on your LinkedIn profile till you see your own dashboard that says your profile is 100% complete, right? Like if you,
Okay, sir.
yeah, if your profile is incomplete, it will have some percentage here. That means you have sections still available that you haven't filled out by yourself. Recommendation, of course, is something that others will fill for you. So go ahead and ask for recommendations. You can highlight ask for recommendations and go through this who you want to ask for. So let me say Renesh. So Renesh and I worked at let's say worked with you, but inside a different group. And then I'm going to say when I was at Chamli, right? Whatever, right? So here, now it will go to Renish. So, hey, Renish, can you write me a recommendation? Don't just send this, right? Hey, Renish, add in a custom message that blah, blah, blah. It was lovely working with you. Now I have moved on. So, I would love if you could write a few words and recommend, have a recommendation for me, and then send that in. Okay. So don't just follow that simple template. Hey, Renish, can you write a recommendation? Because normally a lot of high fancy profile people get a lot of people asking for recommendations and such. Okay. Cool. So that's basically about your LinkedIn profile, right? Have a party image, something more professional, something even as simple as this, which is just a close up of the face is fine. You don't need a professional photo shoot, but it should clearly showcase who you are, what you look like, and tomorrow if I call you in for a Skype interview or a face to face, I'll recognize you and I'll not be like, holy fuck, dude, you're something different on LinkedIn and you look completely different. So even if you don't have a very professional looking photograph, Basically, don't be like this, right? Like this is not Instagram, this is not TikTok, so don't be this person, right? No offense to this person, but don't be that. Have something more sort of professional oriented. All right. What else? Hmm. Do you guys have anything specific? Any questions, doubts? Okay. How many connections do you guys have?
500 plus.
No, that's for others to know. You should know your own connections. I know
Then
mine have 5,000 something, uh,
yes,
but you should know your own connections list, right? Okay, so I have 5,100 exactly, and I have 18 pending requests from people, and that's another thing. That brings you to another thing. But first, like, do you guys know your connections? How many connections you have?
no.
All right, so go ahead and check this, and your target should be to keep adding more and more valuable connections over time. Okay. How many people at RV Tech, good people at RV Tech, Shubham, are in your network already?
Sir, at max 10 or 15. Like
How many
if
people
I
are?
wanted to add.
But how many
Sir,
people are there in the entire company?
sir, 100 to 150 maybe.
Okay, so you should probably look at adding at least 50% of those people, right?
Sir,
Because
can you go on
they
my profile?
they will go and get new jobs, right? They'll act as your ambassadors in different companies, right? And same goes for Setu, right? Setu, wherever you were working before, I forgot the name of the company, but whoever, if it's a small company, have 100% coverage, right? Make sure everybody in that company is a connection of yours. If somebody is not on LinkedIn, obviously that's a different thing, but ideally you should have everybody within your network. Okay, at this stage, LinkedIn has a 30,000 connection limit. At this stage, you shouldn't worry about hitting that limit anytime soon. So make sure you add everybody, or at least good people, right? But just add everybody for now, so that when they leave this company and move on to other companies, they become your connections at new companies. Okay, and when you make a post about something, naturally it gets visibility into that company. So understand that becomes very important to maintain a professional network. Okay, so one trick you can use is, you can, if you're watching YouTube and such, I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it
Yes,
here.
sir.
If you're watching anything, reading any blogs on Kama Sutra or any medium or anything, right? And you come across anyone that you're like, oh, okay, this person is doing some genuine work in the field I'm interested in. Or even if you see something that they're not, not connected to you, just send them, find them on LinkedIn, send them a connect request, say, and mention, had a message, right? Like, please, please, please do not be like these fucker 18 people who have not a single person have sent me a message, right? If there was this one Rajesh who had included a message, I would have accepted his request on the day I got his request, right? But not a single person has cared to send me a request with a message saying, hey, I am interested in connecting with you for so and so reason, right? If this person wants this internship for the next year, which means they're probably right now in their third year, right? Like, why should I bother adding them, right? Why should I bother adding this BCom honors guy, right? Why? Right? What's my incentive, right? My time is precious, right? I'm not gonna fucking waste my time on going and checking what this person's profile is, even though they might be like, hey, I want to learn game development. They didn't tell me, right? Don't make my life difficult for you if you want to connect with me, right? So always put yourself in the other person's shoes and make it easy for them to make their decision, right? It's literally a click of a button, right? I can accept, and I can accept all as well at the top, right? Like, if on the previous screen there was a button to accept all, right? But I don't want to. The problem is I can accept all, and most of these are like, putting up spam posts or sending spam messages, and that's the problem I have, right? So I'm not going to add, and any good professional is not going to add random people. So never be, kind of like this. where you're sending people requests. You might have genuine intentions, but how the fuck I know that you have genuine intentions, right? Like this guy is doing some Python, Java, OpenCV, Flutter, graduates next year, might be interested in one of the courses that we are offering. How do I know? Am I going to go to his profile and spend 2 valuable minutes of my life wasting on this person? No, right? Nobody's going to do that. So, it's very important to have a meaningful message. And that meaningful message could be as simple as, hey, if you know that you don't know this person, you can highlight out, say, hey, we don't know each other, right? Be upfront about it. Hey, we don't know each other. I read your article recently on blah blah blah, or I saw the recent video, or I heard a recent conference where I heard you talking on the stage. Was really inspirational or whatever. Would love to connect with you. That's it. Thanks, right? Now I know there is a common connection between us, right? Or at least know what this person is doing, right? So if they're building, say, an XYZ company, and you are in the same place, you might be looking for new job opportunities down the road. Here, like, hey, XYZ, great work that you're doing at this company. Checked out your games, looks really awesome. Would love to connect. That's it. There is no ulterior motive here. There is nothing that, hey, I want a job, that's why I'm looking for connection, right? Then ignore. If I'm at that stage, not looking to hire somebody, I'll outright ignore it, because I know the moment I accept this person is gonna send me bunch of messages with his resumes and stuff, and ignore. But if you send me, hey, I'm just, I'm also a game developer working at so and so, but you guys are doing awesome work, would love to connect. I would gladly accept that person in my network, right? Even though I don't know them. And later on, you can send them, hey, great, noticed you guys have some openings as well. Could you point me to the right direction, etc. Don't ask the obvious questions, but could you point me to obvious things, etc., where I can apply, or those kind of things are usually available. So don't ask those. But like, hey, can you give me an insight into? So say to one question, like you asked regarding the company yesterday, right? You can find their co-founder's profile is available. Go connect with them on LinkedIn. The moment they accept their connection request, ping them, right? Hey, you guys are doing awesome work. Saw your games. Was curious. Are you guys actually using Unity or some other tool set to build your games? Or what platform are you building your tech on? I couldn't find this information on your website or your LinkedIn profile, right? It's a long way, it's a hard work, but I can guarantee you the moment you enter into their pipeline, it's so much better than going to a random website and hitting apply, right? Because then you're going into HR. Here you're directly going through the co-founder, or you're directly going through the tech lead, right? And now you have cut your entire recruitment process by half. So spend in that extra time. Don't go with that Indian mentality of spray and pray. Hey, I'm going to apply to 500 fucking jobs and hopefully five will return my call, right? Don't do that. Like, spend time on applying for 25 really high ones, so that your odds of converting 25, may say, you should be able to convert 20 to an interview. You should be able to crack at least 10 interviews and eventually get a job offer from them, right? It's better than wasting your time and effort on applying for 500 jobs. Okay, so like we talk about in coding, right? Think first, then start coding, and plan first, then start coding. Same thing, right? Plan and then start applying, right? Okay, so that's enough rant. I'm not going to come into like what you should post and such. Post things meaningful. Uh, that's just up to you personally what you should be posting, but keep it professional, keep it appropriate. If you find something that's newsworthy, post that. But whatever you are up to. So Shubham, you posted a GIF that I asked you to post some time back, right? So keep posting whatever you're working on, right? So you guys are working on this current project, right? So say to literally what you just showed me on the screen share, right? You could make a GIF out of it for 20 seconds and put that up on your LinkedIn profile, or as a post. Hey, currently I'm working on this. The full project is available on GitHub. Anybody interested can go and check it out, right? So now you're turning your work that you're doing into a social media stream, right? It's like documenting your work. And every couple of days, hey, I made progress today. I cracked the turn-based system, and here you go. right? Initially, the traction would be very low. You might not even get a single comment, but over time, you'll build an audience and people will start discovering you, right? And the work will come to you rather than you going to work. Okay.
Devlogs.
Sorry?
Devlogs.
Devlogs what? Yeah, so devlogs is something different most of the time, but this is like, you're showcasing what you're working on, right? You don't really need to maintain as such a log of it altogether, but the idea is that you're letting people know that you're working on something. Otherwise, how would they know, right? So just keep it simple. You can see, right? Most of my posts are nothing but absolutely simple. But I have 4,000 people who viewed this post, right? I have 4,000 people who viewed this post. So on average, you can see majority of my posts get about 4,000 plus reach, right? So actually, I have 5,000 plus connections. So that's the reason as well. But over time, you guys will get to that stage where 3,000, 4,000 is definitely something that I've started to achieve now, but it wasn't possible before as well for me, right? So start building this audience.
We are also building a dedicated community of passionate game developers, web developers on Discord. During this course, if you face any issues while building your projects, please feel free to ask relevant questions on our Discord community, and other students who have already done this course will be there to help you out. The link to join our Discord community will be in the description below. We usually publish a lot of information such as interview questions, hiring patterns, what's the latest and the greatest happening in tech industry, both in gaming and web technologies. In order to stay up to date on relevant information, please follow us on our social media channels, link below.